Now, the efforts of security operatives in combating terror seems to be paying off with the arrest of some 146 terror suspects in Abuja.
Yeah, the suspects were apprehended during raids in several dark spots in the Federal Capital Territory after the police received intelligence that Boko Haram members were flooding the capital on a bombing mission. Now, a 400-man joint security team set up under the supervision of the FCT Police Command was responsible for the arrests.
Now, the police also deployed bomb tracking vehicles to the entry and exit routes of the Federal Capital Territory to support the operation. Well, we have a guest in the studio. He's an engineer, Obani Akinwale. Good morning and thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Good morning.
It's nice to be here.
All right, also joining us on the phone is a historian and public affairs analyst, Emmanuel Moloku. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
All right, let's begin with you, Obani, right here in the studio. How important really is this terror alert by the federal government? Just a couple of weeks ago, the UK and the US government came out with this alert and travel advisory to its citizens, and the federal government said no cause for alarm.
Yeah, I think one thing that we all agree with is our security coming up to stage. Although we are not having the best, but what the government of the day is trying to do most time is to provide us with information as regards security. But if you ask me as an individual and we look at the information world, I feel the information divulged by the security agencies and the government is inadequate and is unnecessary. You cannot tell me Abuja has a population of close to about 3 million Nigerians, and you have a joint security of about 400. How are we going to do our intelligence gathering with that number? Yeah, it is good for us to know that you are arresting A, B, C, D, but how are we able to check the number of people that are moved from Abuja to Lagos? Who is checking that? What is the ratio of security personnel to every individual, to every neighborhood? You have somebody from Kano in Kano State deployed to come and police the place in Lagos. The reality is that how will he be able to effectively know the corner, the dark spot? And if you look at the report, they said they deployed additional 5 bomb tracking devices. The question we need to ask is that, is 8 bomb tracking devices enough for Abuja? So, yeah, it is good that there's a perception that we are winning the war. It is good that we have a festive period that is devoid of bombing. But nonetheless, some of the informations are not necessary. And, yeah, terrorists will be aware that we are here. Then what about where we are not? So, certain things have to be kept at that level, and we will still encourage the government more to look at the in community policing. There's no doubt about it. We have to go that way.
Of course,
I know my area.
Okay. All right. Let me bring in Emmanuel Moloku here now. Arresting 146 suspected members of Boko Haram is a huge number, I must say. But if that amount of persons are arrested, or that number rather, of persons are arrested in Abuja, how concerned should Nigerians be when, if dark spots exist in Abuja with all the security apparatus and intelligence available at the disposal of government?
Yes, well, first of all, I have to thank you for keeping us informed about this. And I think the first man that has spoken very well. But nevertheless, we have to be, sometimes we don't have to look at all the negativities of the government. I think this time around, we have to give them some kudos for being proactive. Because if sometimes there are things like this in the past, before these people would have been arrested, they must have done a lot of damage. We know what happened in Abuja in the past years. And for them to get this information and then they take the necessary steps that led to the arrest of these 146 alleged Boko Haram terrorists, it's something we have to, commend them for. But nevertheless, I still believe that we need to do more. Because if Abuja, the federal capital, with all these security apparatus, 146 members of the terrorists were penetrated. I wonder what will happen in the other parts of the country, where we know we don't have this kind of number of police and gadgets. And that's why I agree with the man who, the engineer who talked about community policing. That's an area we have to go into too. And then if we do that, then the people will be empowered. Because the problem we have is that there is a disconnect between the government and the people. And that is putting a lot of load on the security apparatus. Because if you look at Israel, Israel is one of the countries that have faced the highest challenge of security problem. Right. They have hostile neighbors and everything. But I'm telling you today, they are one of the most secured states on earth. But how do they do it? There is a synergy between the people and the security agents. And that is not happening here. Because
according to this, let me jump in here, Emmanuel Moloku. According to the security operatives, this arrest, 146 of them, were actually made based on intelligence and, of course, intelligence from Nigerians. But my main concern, the real question that I want to ask, are you concerned that this mass, what's that word again? You know, storming of the dark spots in Abuja could lead to the arrest of, quite a number of innocent Nigerians. Is that a cause for concern for you?
Yes, I quite agree with you on that area too, because we have not gotten to that place where we have developed the ability to sift the wheat from the chaff. There are, I know out of that 146, the probability of some innocent people being among them is there. We can't rule that one out. I'm concerned about it too. But then, the important thing is that arrests have been made, and then the government will now do the needful by now taking good measures to look and find out who is really the terrorists, who are the real terrorists among them. That's what we have to start talking about now, so that innocent people will not become victims. Because sometimes there is this problem of trying to tell the people that we are doing something. And in that process, a lot of people get caught in the milieu. So what I'm now talking about, the concern is that the government should do the needful and then find a way of getting out who the terrorists are. And then the innocent ones should be let loose, because there is a possibility that the innocent ones must be among them, because we're not getting to that place where our security agents is so with the gadgets and everything to get the really people who are involved. So I'm concerned about it too.
All right.
Okay. Obani, let me come to you on this. Emmanuel mentioned something earlier. He was talking about the disconnect between the agencies and the people themselves. And he agreed with you that the community policing will be one way to go. Now, this arrest of 146 persons in Abuja, the raiding of the black spots, we remember when the US and the UK raised an alarm and they said there's likely a terror alert, or there's going to be bombing in Abuja, and they mentioned other cities and all of that. And the government of Nigeria said there's nothing to worry about. No cause for alarm. So will this confirm that alarm raised by the US and the UK governments now?
Yeah, except we are not being sincere with ourselves. We know that Nigerian states are though safe, but we still have skirmishes of violence, terror, due to what we have in the Northeast, the herdsman issue here and there. So the reality is that anytime United States or foreign government come up with ideas that are likelihood of such events, what the Nigerian government will do naturally, as PR from their point of view, is to suppress the information so as not to create panic in the system. But the reality is that this is what happens like every day in the Northeast, that sometimes the media give you coverage, sometimes it's being suppressed. But in our case in Nigeria, we are all aware of what we are fighting. And the reality is that even without United States or whoever is telling us about the bombing, we know that during the festive period, these elements try as much as possible to inflict maximum damage, collateral damage on the nation. And where are the spots that will give them the news? The Federal Capital Territory, places like Lagos, places like Maiduguri, where the theater of war is going on, Adamawa and Yobe. So without even telling us naturally, we know that these are susceptible areas to bombing. And
soft targets.
Soft targets. So knowing fully well about this, and the government having the, like you said, we have the security forces mainly in Abuja. You could see the customs side by side with civil defense, with police. You have a lot of them. You have troops and battalions and so on and so forth. So the reality is that we are winning this war, but we have not won this war. We are winning the war against insurgents. We are winning the war against terrorists, but we have not won the war. So the reality now is that we need to put our hands together and do more information gathering. When they said 146, you recall about 2 years ago, about 3,000 or so was done by military apparatus, and they said they started screening them. At the end of the day, 594 was first released, that they don't know anything. Out of this 196, you agree with me that there are Nigerians that are looking for what to eat. And if you know it's prevalent in the northern part of the country, that you have a lot of almajiris. So people go to joint where they can make money, go to bus stop. These are likely targets that people will look at, okay, the dressing pattern, the mode of talking, and the look and all those things look suspicious. But the reality is that out of this 146, I don't want to say affirmatively that it's possible for us to discover that 145 are not terrorists. Because what we want to be hearing,
that's a huge
what
number.
we want to be hearing is that
that's a huge number. What you're saying is that the military may not be clinical in its operation.
What he said is suspected. Well, what we want to hear is that
there was a raid. So.
Yeah, it's a raid. So what we want to be hearing is that a kingpin has already been arrested, and such network were able to break 1, 2, 3, 4 network that this will likely cause hazard to the nation.
Okay, Moloku, do you agree with those who are actually questioning the motive of government with this $1 billion excess crude account, which it says it needs to tackle this Boko Haram once and for all, to fight the war against terrorism?
Yes, let me say something about this one, because I've been worried about the kind of way people are reacting about this $1 billion. Apart from the fact that people are, those that are saying maybe they are having some fears that this money will be diverted, and some say it's for preparation for 2019 election and all that. We've had so many things. Well, let me tell you, those of us, especially those that are in position of authority, should mind the way they use language and mind the way they talk about. This is about national security. There is no amount spent for security that is too much. And because without it, nothing works. You see, some of these people that are saying this, especially those that are in position of authority, I wish their children are in the front line and see what all these innocent Nigerians are seeing. Sacrifices they are making, so that some of us today, we are doing Christmas Day. For them, some of them are in the hospital. Some of them have left this earth before this Christmas. But we are doing this Christmas. They are doing this sacrifice because of us. They are paying this price because of us. So you see, we are living in the period of information. These things most of us are saying, they get to them and they hear it. Some of them will be demoralized. Let me tell you, no matter how much sophisticated weapon you give to a man, the power of that gun is the morale of the man that has that gun. And if we start saying things that put these people and make them think that we don't even care about what they are doing, that is not good for us. That is not good for us. $1 billion is nothing, we pale into insignificance to the type of money that have been taken out of this country. And I know, I'm not speaking for this government, but I know this government will not appropriate $1 billion for the fight against insurgency and the security problem and divert it.
All right, Emmanuel.
Sure.
Yeah, Emmanuel, let me stay with you here, because a lot of people, when Nigerians are showing concern, they are showing concerns from precedences like this. They don't want to know whether it is the present government or not, the present administration. The point there is government over time has failed Nigerians when promises are made and are not kept. And we have seen under former President Goodluck Jonathan, if all the monies, roughly about $2 billion was used to prosecute the war. And right now, certainly we commend the government for reducing the impact of Boko Haram that has been decimated. But they also said, they told Nigerians that This is the kick of a dying horse. We have decimated Boko Haram. In fact, we've defeated Boko Haram. So at this time where our $1 billion is still earmarked to fight an already won war, shouldn't Nigerians really be concerned?
Yes, let me tell you, I agree with you, but let me tell you one thing I'm looking at. I'm not, this $1 billion, you know, we always think of the next election. We don't think of the next generation. We are not proactive. Security matters is not something that starts in a day and ends in a day. This money, this $1 billion, we can use it to start building up our security apparatus. This country has no data. We don't have data bank. We disseminated and might have seen it. If today, if asked at those, how did we go about that? No records, no data, no nothing. We have to work. If you don't know what has happened before you were born, you will ever remain a child. If we don't start taking data, taking records, and creating research institute to go into research and find out what about this terrorism, which has become a scourge on earth today, we will always be taken unawares. So I feel that this part of this money, for example, look at our retired generals. They are well-resourced persons. Some of them are very intelligent. We have some of the most capable soldiers in this country. Some of them will retire without contributing anything. The government can create a kind of an institute where these people will be called with their wealth of knowledge to impact on the coming generation. For example, remember in 1950 during the North Korean War, the Americans mandated General Douglas MacArthur to lead the United Nations force. This man was a man of 70 years. Why? Because he was the supreme commander of the Allied forces in the Pacific. So he knows that place very well. And he came and he did what most generals today that remain a military record. Yes, because the North were already in the South. But he went through the John River, used his craft this thing, and before you know it, he overrun these people and even drove them off to the Yellow River by the Chinese border. This man was 70 years, for Christ's sake, and he has retired from the army. Yeah,
so, a very, very important point you make there. Moloku talked about, top U.S. general at the age of 70, MacArthur, what was the name, who used his expertise to actually, prosecute the war.
Korean War.
And I'm thinking, recall during was it Reconciliation Committee led by Oputa?
The Oputa panel.
The Oputa panel, thank you. When people like Mustafa, came to the National Front, and many Nigerians were like, wow, this is such a brilliant officer. And so many officers like himself, including our present president, who Nigeria has, of course, invested so much in. Have we really been using all of this to enhance Nigeria's security status right now?
Yeah, I think what we need to first look at is that our problem when it comes to intelligence or security agencies is a systemic problem. You recall when President Abuja was the civilian president, I mentioned that after the coup, the military tactically weakened themselves by ensuring that the armory is not well fortified, so that no single individuals can topple any government. And when we started this insurgency war, some of the tanks we see that were there was some of them that were used in Sudan, for the war in Sudan. So which means that you could have the best of brain, but when the facility is not available, there is something they can do. They could do all the planning. You see the relationship between Nigerian Air Force, U.S. Air Force coming for training here and there, and we have to resort to Pakistan to use aircraft to fight the war. So the question is, you have these best brains, but do they have the best equipment to work with? No. Then on the issue of $1 billion, whether it's too much or is ideal or not ideal, there are two sides to it. And that's why I said our problem has been systemic. Every great nations put more attention on their security. How much are we budgeting for our security in Nigeria? Will it be a crime if 2017 we have foresee the requirement for this $1 billion and we have appropriate about $500 million into that budget, and in 2018 budget as well we appropriate another $500 million budget. Then to the governors coming up and saying, oh, the money is too much, the money is too much. How much was invested in security in Lagos only, in Rivers State only? What is the ration in $1 million? So the reality is that, like Moloku said, Our political leaders have to be conscious, and they have to understand that this is information age. They can go to the press, they can go and say anything they want to in the air. But the reality is that $1 billion is just in currency, just about 300 billion naira.
350 billion
How
naira?
much is that in acquiring state-of-art facilities for the military? These are people that have husband, wife, children here there. You see those guys sleeping in the bush. They don't have food. They don't have wear. Some of them are even wearing another cloth on their uniform. So the reality is we have the expertise, no doubt about it. We have the best brains in our military, but they are not well equipped.
Okay. Emmanuel Moloku, let me bring you here before we let you go. Obani just mentioned something. He said we are in the information age, and information is very vital. In fact, what we call intelligence is basically a makeup of information that are forehand. Now, the Nigerian military and the Nigerian government, when it comes to disseminating information to Nigerians, we know that they can't tell everyone everything about strategy they're doing, but connecting with Nigerians in such a way that Nigerians know enough that they need to know and then look for a way on how to assist the government. I'm bringing this from the issue of the $1 billion that is meant to be spent. Now, the first information came out that this $1 billion is to prosecute, the war against insurgency, and then it took the vice president to try to, amend that and make Nigerians understand, no, it's not just about the Northeast, it's about the entire country and all of that. Nigerians are still not very satisfied with the information like that. Now, you mentioned earlier now that there are so many other issues, upgrading the military. Now, that's even expanding it beyond what government is saying. Do you think government is really engaging Nigerians, giving them the right information as at when due?
Let me say something before I answer your question. The fear that was raised that these things have happened in the past and we were all disappointed with the outcome and the money that we have budgeted. We know how it went. But let us know one thing. Comparing the apple and the pineapple, it's not, you can't, because there is apple there. They are two different things. And if you close your eye because you don't want to see your enemy pass it, you won't know where your friend passed. So the thing we are talking about here is, I agree with you. Nigerians need to be well informed because they are the owners of the money. And before you appropriate their money, they should know what you are going to do with it. And that is how it happened in other climes. And so the problem we have, it's not that, so let me tell you, some of the people that are telling you that we are not well informed, they are more informed than others. But some of them believe in being mischievous. This country, for Christ's sake, is our country. We have no other country than this country, Federal Republic of Nigeria, for today. And Muhammadu Buhari is our president for now. And all we have to do as citizens is to criticize constructively and come up with alternate ideas and alternative ideas of what to do. It's not about sitting in the cozy of your office or your house and say, why would they appropriate this? You have not even made your research. You don't even know what they are going to do with it. It just, I believe, I agree with you that the government should improve their communication to the people. Because, for example, remember, this country, the people, there has been a serious alienation between the government and the people. Because the Nigerian leaders does not believe that the people factors in. And I still want to say one thing. A nation that uses the material resources that is needed to provide the needs of the majority to create luxury for the few will no longer endure.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Moloku, historian and public affairs analyst, for your insights. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Let's bring it back to you, Obani, and I almost said Obani analyst. Somehow we have managed to make this the $1 billion issue, but of course it goes beyond. It goes definitely beyond that. Of course, we hear that in the FCT, 16,000 officers have been ordered to remain on 24-hour, round-the-clock surveillance all through the Yuletide and beyond. And of course, the 400-man joint security team set up by the police, the FCT Police Command. How effective will this be? And what are the really far-reaching measures that the Nigerian government and the security forces need to take to really, you know, push back any attempts at attacks in Abuja or elsewhere?
Yeah, the first thing we need to do is that our security agencies need to stop talking and start working. They need to do less of talking and do more of working, gather more intelligence, be able to get trust of Nigerians, and so that Nigerians can divulge information to them. And you mentioned 16,000 police to what population size? That is not enough to police any state. If you have 16,000...
Well, Nigeria has only about 300,000.
That is where the problem is, because we have not made security as a priority in this nation. If Nigeria is secure, everything will work. Everything in Nigeria will work if we have proper security. So when you have a 16,400 to secure FCT, out of which maybe 1,000 is to secure who is who in the government. So the reality, you have 15,000 to about 3 million. That's about a police officer to about 3,000 Nigerians. How do you want to secure them? So we have to look at that, and we have to start recruiting people, and we have to use more information technology, more technology to secure our environment. Then our government spokesperson, information managers are doing their best, but it's not the best for us. They need to speak more. They need to tell us what we need to know. They need to tell us what action and why government is taking to action. So if we have all information at our beacon, it makes it easy for us as citizens to assist the government in driving the government policies in terms of security.
All right. Akinwale Obani, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.